We need to be grabbing as much data as possible, and we need to be analyzing all the creatives of our competitors so that we can really fine tune what's the positioning.
Amazon is going to empower us to create content with AI, videos, images. A little bit of that's out, but we know some cool stuff coming out.
I am so excited to finally connect with you because I have been using Data Dive for years and we have never actually shot anything together on camera before. So welcome everybody. So my name is Daniela. I'm the founder of Mindful Goods, where we help e-commerce brands elevate their listings day in and day out. And Brandon.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Young, founder of Data Dive.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into it because what I'm most excited about is that I feel like most brands at this stage come to us at a stage where they've already launched and they've kind of hit this, not necessarily plateau, but they've just kind of like set and forgot, maybe is the word.
Yeah,
right?
That's super common, right? You're like, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, just go.
Yeah.
Until it then starts to not quite work as well, and then it's still not working, and then you're dead.
Yeah. And you go from having what was a successful brand to letting competitors just eat up your market share.
Yeah, everything is super disruptive. And one of the things that I've been talking a lot about is with AI, it's the speed to market and the speed to disruption is so much faster, which means life cycles are shorter, which means this type of disruption that you're seeing even within your own products, your performance is shrinking. And you need to be around it. So I've been telling everybody, like, be mindful of your best sellers because someone out there is like targeting you, even if you don't see it yet. So disrupt yourself first.
Okay, so I'm going to be totally honest. Your Data Dive tool disrupted my business a little bit, but in a good way, because we were doing some things manually every single time we were working on a listing. One of them was we would always build 2 to 3 titles, and we had a title calculator in a spreadsheet that we would actually pull our master keyword list, and then we would pull keywords from Amazon, and we would pull the converting keywords from PPC, and then we would manually put them into this calculator and then write out what the copy was going to be. So we'd have these amazing titles to give to clients, and that calculator would actually show them which titles would get the most reach. So then they could test those on their own. And this was before you could even title test on Manage Your Experiment. So we didn't even have that. But then when I found it on Data Dive, I was like, this is genius.
Yeah, I do love that you're a data-based approach and that you're A/B testing and doing all these things. And I did want to make it like single click, like just like write the title, mathematically make this to have the most ranking juice or ability to rank.
Yeah. And then if we take it a step further, the thing that I fell in love with the most is we were also doing this step manually. We would go and look at all the competitors for our clients, right? And our creative directors would copy or download all the images so that we could have them all in a brief. We could analyze those images, which is really what you need to be doing at this stage. If you want to get to the next level with your content on Amazon and when you're focused on conversion, we need to be grabbing as much data as possible, and we need to be analyzing all the creatives of our competitors. So with Data Dive, I was able to just like one click grab everything in there into one space and then see the AI insights for those images so that we can really fine tune what's the positioning that we need to go after. And then we can compare that against any other data and come up with our top 5 selling points that's going to be inside of our creatives.
That's amazing. Yeah, so much work. I always wanted to do all of that, even with my own product development for our products. And it was just so manual. So people would talk to me like, okay, well, what's your process? And so we were teaching downloading data from other softwares and then creating spreadsheets, writing formulas, going and looking at reviews manually, and then looking at images manually. And so what you're describing is literally tens of hours of work to research one product.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it wasn't until our technical co-founder in Data Dive joined, who had a background in building software. He's like, this needs to be a software. This is so dumb that you're doing this manually. And I'm like, really? We can do that? And then we invested $2 million and now we can do it with a button.
Okay, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't even know the feature of what it's called in Data Dive, but here's the thing that's exciting for me now is that we have struggled to really track results with what we're doing. And I feel like the value of anybody who's going to be investing in their content on Amazon is seeing that return. Like, we want to know that anything we're doing
Right.
is working. And so now our team is using the tracker,
Rank radar.
the rank radar, so that when we update the main images, and let's say we're doing even a Manage Your Experiments test, or we could even be just testing the main images with ads, like at least we're able to set a set that somewhere so we know we're tracking it, and then we can see what's happening with our rank when we're making these creative
Yeah.
tests, you know?
So the lagging metric that you'll see is that organic rank. Because at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is just rank better organically to get that organic traffic. But you have to pull the lever of ads, right? You have to run ads. The whole purpose of the ads is to get more actions, more clicks, more revenue coming in, a higher conversion rate than your competitors. And so the biggest thing that you're doing is impacting that conversion rate, that click-through rate, which is the number one lever for ranking. But you still have to, then you have to spend money to get more of it, right? And so what we do now, and now that SQP is part of the API, we're able to pull that into the rank radar because you could see week by week, once you change, because the lagging metric is the rank, and it could take a little while for your change of images and your increasing conversion to start impacting your organic rank. You might go from 12 to 11 to 10 over the course of a few weeks. But you want to know kind of right away, is my conversion rate performing better? And then that's like a day-to-day thing within PPC. But even week to week within SQP, what percentage of market share, or like how did I do as a benchmark for click-through rate, for conversion rate, for add to cart percentage versus my competitors? And that's where the content that you're doing so much work on really makes an immediate change. And you can see that now with the data. And then we try to put it all together for you because like all of those are the levers for the rank, and the rank is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think another thing that you and I were talking about that is super important are who's buying the product. What are the audiences? What are the avatars, as they call it in the marketing world? And so what is the data you can get to understand that? Because I think the mistake I see a lot of sellers make, and they might come to you with like a preconceived notion as to who's buying their product. And then all of their existing content is probably geared towards like that one avatar. And they don't realize. So I did a case study recently with another group that teaches a course, and they wanted to build their own product, and it's like a travel hanging closet thing. And so I was like, well, let's do the dive and let's take a look at it. And we used the AI product brief to like look at all the competitors, look at the reviews, and then the AI told us like who the typical buyers are. And I was like, wait, kids going off to college for their dorm room.
Yeah.
But the one that surprised me was really interesting was RV travelers. I was like, why do RV travelers need, don't they just live out of a suitcase? Like, I don't get it. But literally, like when we went in to look at this in more detail and went to Google and like, I was, look into this avatar, what we saw was people would set up their campers and like hang up their clothes in their camper, in their camper closet using this thing. It was like an organizer for them.
Yeah.
Specifically for this market. And I was like, well, how big of a market? It's actually a massive market. We went back into the
Van
the
life.
yeah, it was like a van life thing. We went into that data for the keywords, and I just put RV. There were like 40 keywords across, all the different buckets of keywords, the way we bucket the keywords, that had RV and like traveler and van and like all these things. And I was like, you guys need to talk to that avatar in your content.
Yeah.
You
So once you know that,
right.
right, you can then build your visuals around that, have your messaging around that, or at least start to test out a few images with that in there. It doesn't need to shift your entire
Right.
listing,
Well, how
but
would you do that? You're the pro there. So A plus, like where would you build it into A plus content? Because it might be the third or fourth biggest audience, but it's an audience, and you want to
right,
make sure that they're being spoken to.
right,
Because
absolutely.
at the end of the day, you're going to, when they come to your listing, if it doesn't represent them, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So how do you build it in?
I think there's a couple different ways, right? So when we're thinking about your product page or your PDP, there's so much more flexibility that we have now with premium A plus content. So I always think of anything that is the first thing that a customer sees on PDP is going to be your actual main content. That's your first audience, second audience, the first or second or third main benefits. Like that has to be the first front and center things that people see. But now we have the ability to use carousels for secondary content. So that's where we can weave in other narratives, test other content. And if you really think that avatar is getting stronger over time, you can start to shift it to the front, test it, test it for a month and see if your conversion changes. The other thing that you can do is actually create some ads that are targeted towards that specific audience, but tie the visuals from that ad directly to a subpage on your storefront and just test driving them there instead of PDP, because you're gonna have much more control over that specific narrative. And then you can have little hints of it throughout the rest of your content. It doesn't need to overpower. Like you can have, if you have a product image, maybe it shows a few different types of audiences. But the other thing that we're missing out on here is the fact that Rufus is gonna pick up on that now, because Rufus is able to basically read and scan our images to know what are the visuals that are in
Right.
these images.
Yeah, and so them reading, the fact that you built it in to the content, maybe you put it in the backend attributes, audiences, right? Because now you understand it, you'll get indexed for a lot of those keywords that you were missing. But you mentioned something awesome around like building out specific ad sets.
Mhm.
And so we've been spoiled with some things to come here that
Ooh,
that
yeah.
around AI, where Amazon is going to empower us to create content with AI, videos, images. A little bit of that's out, but we know some cool stuff coming out. What would be really interesting to know is, can we target that audience with a video that they generate for us with a click, and then run that specific audience targeted video to those specific audience keywords, right? So those subset keywords, that's what I want to know. And then that strategy where you really are going granular as to who my avatar is, what keywords is that avatar using to target or to search for my product. And then that connection is going to convert so well.
We're getting so much more control day after day. So I'm glad that we're able to dive into the data. I think the common theme here is just the more data, the better.
Yeah.
The more data that brands have access to and that you're analyzing and utilizing and putting back into your content and weaving back into your listing and testing, and always be testing.
Always.
Always. Like number one rule, always be testing.
ABT.
Yeah. Like when Manage Your
I just made that
Experiments
up.
came out, weren't you like,
I am. I think that is super, super important. It's just so slow sometimes. I complained about that earlier a little bit. I think
Yeah.
2 weeks is too long. I want to know, like, because we're impatient. We're spending money every day. Like,
Right.
I want to know yesterday.
Right.
Like, can I
Yeah.
figure it out without spending money?
We should be transparent here. Like my process, and I know your process too, is that when we're building creatives, like first we pull the data, as much data as we can. We then synthesize it into what we want our brief to be. We know all the top selling points. We know what every single image should look like because we've studied our avatar. Then we're actually designing drafts of our content, but then we're split testing quickly on a third-party testing tool. Google it. There's a few of them out there. And then we bring them into Manage Your Experiments and validate it with true Amazon data. And that does take a little bit of time, or you can accelerate that with your ads.
And it's so important. The people who set it and forget it they're going to spiral into nothingness. And you need to constantly be disrupting, constantly be testing new ad sets, new images, find out who's buying your product. Could be RV campers. You don't even know it.
Well, awesome. Thanks for joining me today. And I'm excited that
Thank
we
you.
finally have our first video together.
I know. I'm so excited. Thank you.